It's time for episode 247 of the 3 Point Podcast and kind of a Christmas preview. We're coming right up on the great holiday. Just want to tell you we're teamed with Memorial Healthcare, home of the Now Community Wellness Center. Join the 21-day health challenge, just $1 initiation fee, $2 a day. Enroll now through January 15th. Take advantage of this great offer. It includes free one-on-one sessions with an exercise physiologist, free body scan, and also free drop-in group exercise classes and much more. And also, Matt, for you want to stop in there, drop the kids off, only $2 per child for 2 hours. Now, think about what you pay for babysitting. I know you don't use babysitters that much. That's a pretty good deal.
Wait, say that again, $2 for 2 hours?
$2 for 2 hours, yeah.
So
yeah,
basically $1 an hour. Yeah, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah, I know you're coming home for Christmas, and I know you love your family, and it's family time. But I mean, my God, drop them off for a couple hours.
Yeah. don't even go use the gym. Just drop the kids off.
Drop off the kids and sit in the lobby and watch Netflix on your iPad or something.
Well, for more details, go to memorialhealthcare.org/wellness-center. Commitment, compassion for life. Also, our team includes Skymint, Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry, over 15 locations through the state of Michigan. There's a lot of these places popping up, but Skymint is the best. And make sure you check them out, the new Skymint Reserve. If you're over 21, go online at skymint.com, sign up for the rewards program. 20% off at the front of the store. Just use our coupon code 3.20. That's for new customers only. We also want to thank our local partners, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Pro Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Well, we'll play a little catch up, and I almost cringed thinking about what Jared might come up with here tonight with our Christmas party we just had last weekend. Why don't you start it off, young man?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a great time down there in Frankfurt. I actually had 2 different Christmas parties this weekend. I'm like Christmased out. You know, everybody was calling me the Scrooge last week. People who listen to the podcast saying the same thing to me. It's a great time at Frankenmuth. Every time I'm there, I'm reminded of how long it takes to get the food. I think we were scheduled to eat at 12:30. I don't think a piece of chicken was set down until about 1:45. But other than that, it's it's a great time seeing everybody from the family. We have such a big family, man. It's like you don't even get time to talk to everybody. Maybe you talk to half of the people there, and you're lucky at that. But no, a great time. Ted actually reported that he had 4 pieces of chicken, which he actually said that was a career low, which I think that's maybe my career high. So just kind of a funny little view of 2 different worlds there. But yeah, I mean, it's Christmas spirit. I mean, this is the best week of the year. The lead up to Christmas, it takes forever, especially when you're a kid. Feels like, Christmas will never come. But as an adult, I love it. You got the vacation just kind of sitting there at the end of the week. So just power through the next 5 days.
Yeah. I'm impressed at the only 4 pieces of chicken. I know you said you were wanting to maybe watch yourself as far as the diet and, stuff like that. So, and I know you guys get pizza afterwards. So you got to pace yourself a little bit.
Yeah, that was the mission, not to overdo it, especially after hearing about it in this podcast every year. But I did know we had Main Street coming later on. And, my downfall probably was I probably should have stuck with 1 piece of Main Street, but I had 2. I have to admit it. I did stay away from the majority of the sweets. But, Jared set it up pretty well. You're right. It's always a good time for Frankenmuth. But this year, I'd like to get your opinion too, Jared. The after party with all the kids playing our LCR games. I mean, we had this time for the first time an appearance by Santa Claus. And
that's cool.
I think it went extremely well. What are your thoughts, Jared?
It's hilarious. I mean, I don't think any of those kids are going to listen to this podcast or have any idea what I'm even saying, but it was our uncle, and they thought it was Santa. I came to that realization as we got overloaded with kids in the matter of like a year. It feels like we now have like 10 different kids under the age of 5, and they just run around nonstop. They became like the highlight of our family gatherings. I'm like one of the old guys now. It's crazy. I've never been great around kids. I have fun with them, but I'm not one of the people that's playing peekaboo or doing any of that. So I might struggle when my fatherhood days do come. But no, it's awesome seeing them, and it kind of gave you the little Christmas magic when you see the kids light up when Santa walks in the room. Now, what was funny is we saw one Santa in Frankenmuth, and then there was a different Santa that night, but they couldn't quite connect the dots that they looked totally different, but that they were the same guy. But other than that, it's just it's magical seeing kids' face like that when Santa walks in the room.
It is funny you say that because we went and saw Santa at the mall. I mentioned on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and then we've seen a couple other Santas. Like my son's daycare had a Santa come, and we went to a light festival last night, and there was Santa there. None of them look alike, and I was looking at my daughter. She's 7, so she's getting to that age, where the dots start to connect.
Yeah.
And she's a pretty intuitive kid. So I was like, I think she's going to start to put this together. And I think the wheels were spinning, but I think the overall Christmas magic is still there. So, she was still loving it. And see, Jared, you're starting to understand. Maybe the Grinch is starting to go away when you get past that age of Christmas is so corny. Christmas is so cheesy. It's no fun. You're seeing it through your niece and nephews and all your cousins or whatever, seeing it through their eyes. It is pretty cool,
Do you guys have a favorite Christmas memory from when you were a kid? Ted, I feel like I remember. What was yours when you got a pair of knackers or something when you were a kid, or what was your
what knackers? What's that?
Knickers, I guess. Knickers.
Knickers.
No, you talking about that electric football game.
Yeah,
right?
Good memory, Matt. My biggest gift that I thought was really cool was this electric football, and once I played with it for about 10 minutes, I thought, what a freaking dud.
What was it, the vibrating game where you put
the vibrating game?
I've never understood that game.
But I wanted one so bad.
Yeah. Now, I off the top of my head, I mean, there were a number. I remember one year we got a snowmobile. I probably talked about it on the podcast. We got a snowmobile for the family, but I remember it was one of those Christmases. There was literally 0 snow. So we went outside and the snowmobile was sitting in the yard on grass. So I was like, oh, awesome. We got a snowmobile, but we have no snow. So we can just sit on it and act like we're going to ride it. That was pretty cool. But now I don't know. Now it's different now. I mean, like I said, we went to the light festival at the amusement park that we go to all the time down here. And my daughter, I've mentioned it a few times. She is just all about it. All the lights and decorating the trees. And she got to write a letter to Santa and saw Santa and doing all this stuff. It is really cool. My son, obviously, he's not even 1 yet. He fell asleep. So he almost couldn't care less. But it is fun. You try and soak up all these Christmas memories. I see you guys might have some snow coming, single digit temperatures coming up. It seems like.
Hey, a Christmas miracle. I mean, I will say I haven't seen a drop of snow this whole year. I don't know if Detroit, this is my first time kind of being here for the whole winter. I feel like we haven't seen a drop of snow, but then as soon as we're in Frankenmuth, we walk out, it's a Christmas wonderland. It's a snow globe.
And it's coming
outside.
Yeah, I know my parents up in Ludington have snow. They've been sending pictures. I mean, up there on the lake. And we're coming back next week after Christmas. So I'm definitely checking the weather.
Yeah.
And it's looking like it's going to be a chilly week while we're there. So
it's going to be cold.
And maybe my favorite thing and I actually just was alerted of this day today at work, excuse me, is the Lions potentially a Christmas Eve miracle at Carolina on Christmas Eve. I love that. And then little do you know it, the very next week we're playing on New Year's Day. So I was very hopeful that we were going to have one of those Christmas Eve matchups. I mean, the one thing I'm nervous about, but maybe this is kind of a built-in excuse. So we have, you have Christmas Eve mass, at 4:00,
right?
Lions at 1:00. Could bleed into church time. Might have to get there a little bit later.
Or you could go my route and DVR it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell your priest to back up the sermon a little bit. We got to watch the end of the Lions game. Kind of along those lines. The Lions. I know we're going to talk a lot more about the Lions in a bit. So their next game is on Christmas Eve down here in Charlotte, and we were really contemplating going. We were like, maybe this would be a cool chance to the first time taking the kids to a professional sporting event. Tickets are going to be cheap because the Panthers stink, so they're not in the playoff hunt at all. But it's going to be a cold front is happening everywhere. Obviously, not just Michigan, down here too. It's going to be low 30s, which down here is very cold. And we're I don't know, convincing a 7-year-old and a not even 1-year-old to sit in an outdoor football stadium for 4 hours in 30-degree weather. Not sure that's a good idea.
Probably not a good plan, Matt.
Yeah. So I think we're going to watch. I mean, not I think. We are going to watch from the warmth of our home.
It's funny you say that. This weekend in Franklin, I was walking the streets. I had this fleeting thought as there was this couple with like their baby in a stroller like ahead of me, like as this wind and snow was whipping, and I'm thinking, why are they putting this baby through this? This baby has no idea what's going on. He doesn't know they're in a Christmas wonderland of Franklin. He's literally just thinking to himself, he's freezing his nards off. And it's funny that you mentioned that idea because I had that same exact thought this weekend. Like, why are they putting this baby through this punishment?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, we thought about it last night at that Christmas festival because it was chilly. But I mean, you got a winter coat on him. You had like 2 onesies. He was in like boots. He had a blanket around him. He fell asleep. He was cozy. This little guy, I mean, he was conked out. He was nice and cozy. You just got to bundle him up.
They adapt to it. Well, your backup plan could be, if you had a solid babysitter, go there with your wife, have an adult night out and watch the game.
Yeah, we talked about that too, but something felt a little dirty on Christmas Eve, asking someone, come watch our kids on Christmas Eve. Point. Go away from your family, come watch our kids so we can go to a football game. But,
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, we got a lot to get into, including Prep Spotlight, and we'll tell you a little bit about what's been going on here locally in high school sports right after this. All right, guys, not a lot of stuff going on here, but, we always like to focus on Corunna and Owosso. Owosso beat Corunna in swimming, 105-74. Blake Binger he was a 3-time winner for the Trojans, and this is kind of a cool thing. Freshman Danica Dwyer won the diving portion of the meet. She also is a starting and a very good point guard for the basketball team, and she's only a freshman, so we'll be hearing her name a lot for Owosso for sure. The game we were supposed to do, Chesaning at Ovid-Elsie, was postponed due to illness. The flu bug, I guess, was going around the schools up here, and if you look at the news every night, we're still not rid of COVID, flu, and what is it, RSV?
Yeah.
Did you like they call it the 3-headed monster? But no game last week. Just recently, also, by the way, Durand's Gabe Lynn was named Argus Press Mr. Football, 1,500 yards rushing, 31 rushing TDs. Those are pretty good, solid stats, both school records for Durand. And it was a shame their season ended in the first round of the playoffs. But man, they had a heck of a regular season at 9-0.
And we talked about it, but they've definitely got something to build on. Disappointing end of the season for sure, but they've got something going over there.
Also, we know New Lothrop, man, they have just a stellar sports program. I think it's 21 or 22 state championships in a variety of sports. The wrestling program's as good as it gets for that level. Grayson Orr took home first place at 285 pounds, way up north in the Marquette Challenge up there in the UP. That's got to be a pretty cool event for them. 10 schools. You take a road trip. I'm sure they must stay in a motel up there as a team. That's good bonding. But that's a pretty neat thing at this time of year. If you don't get hit with a blizzard, it'd be fun to be up there in the snow and enjoying Marquette. Which really, if you have never been to Marquette, Michigan, way up in the UP, it's really a cool town. Have you been there, Jared?
No, I've never been to the UP. UP is probably like number one on my list of places to go. I really want to go there. Was a team retreat, was that something that existed back in your days?
Not in my day. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No,
you guys just showed up on first day of practice and played ball.
We had summer practice. That's about it.
Yeah.
Those team trips are definitely cool, especially if it's an actual event. Like this was an actual season competition. Especially you get to cross the bridge. Right. And you probably get some time to go check out Lake Superior or whatever you're going to do up there. That would be a pretty cool competition.
Put away a few pasties and enjoy yourself up
pasties. There. My parents. It's funny. My parents brought some last time they came down. They brought some. That's just such cool. A classic meal to have.
By the way, before we end this segment, guys, I hope you don't mind me getting to my soapbox again. I've said it before, and it just irks me, and I just don't understand it. When you show up at a gym or you get some information on a basketball team and they just put their class, their senior, junior, sophomore, don't put heights. They do the same thing in football. Don't heights and weights. But in basketball, you would think, well, why don't you just put the heights on there? Some schools do it, but I'm seeing more and more not. Is it just laziness? Is there something I'm missing there? Why they don't do that?
I don't know. Or is it like a privacy thing? I don't know.
Makes no sense.
Right.
I'm trying to remember what school it was. We got, we get information packets for the state finals. One of them it would have been a program that you would have leaked out of your drawers if you would have saw it. It had like the whole school history. It had the records, had the playoff records, had each player headshot, heights, weights, color coded.
My kind of school.
Like probably 15 pages. And I just think we need to send that out to all these different ADs and say, this is how your template should look, right?
Thank you. I agree. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but I agree.
I mean, in a perfect world, I like I said, it looked like it took somebody. It was like a Picasso had made this thing. It was magical, and I feel bad that I don't remember which team it was because I would love to give them a shout out because it was that great.
The thing is, you have to take a physical to be able to eligible to play. So you know that information. And how long does it take for an AD, a coach, or whoever it is, for football? When you're getting your pads, quick, hop on a scale, quick, jump in front of this tape measure, 6'1", 185, done. There you go. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. I don't get it.
No, it doesn't make sense to me, but I'll leave it at that. I wanted to bring it on the table, and I got one other thing that just irks me. And we've talked about this before too. And you guys know, it's always kind of cool when you get your name in the local paper, right?
Yeah,
right.
So many catches, so many touchdowns, so many points in basketball. Well, there's been a trend that schools, when they lose and they're not very good, all of a sudden you read in the paper, no details reported. And one of our local schools, it's been 2 games in a row. They got beat pretty bad, but no publicity for these kids and no details reported. Now that's just BS. It's on the coach. The athletic director should be kicking his ass and saying, this is part of your job. You got to do it no matter what. I mean, I'm really passionate about this. That's ridiculous. You're screwing the kids,
Yeah, especially even in a loss. Like, what if a kid had a career game, scored 28 points, and had a great game, but they lost? Right. No details included. Also, and I'm not trying to get into this, like the whole participation trophy generation or whatever, but it kind of like feeds into that. Like, just because you lost doesn't mean there shouldn't be an article in the paper about it. Like, it is. You're kind of teaching these kids some bad lessons, I feel like.
I do too.
And it's listen, I've heard those phone calls. We all have been on the bus when the coach gets called. It's a 2-minute phone call, man.
Right.
Yep.
It's not hard. It's not like you're LeBron James who's got 50 cameras and it's shoved in his face after a tough loss. Just give him the stats.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to talk, have your assistant just shoot them an email with the details. The double-digit scores really is all you need.
Especially, nowadays, email, text message. If you don't want to talk on the phone, hey, here's our leading scorers. This is a quick couple little nuggets. There you go, done. It shouldn't be that hard. I was going to ask you guys. I know we're about to move on. The dual sport thing that wasn't around. I know definitely. I would assume, Ted, you couldn't play 2 sports in one season in your day.
I could. I did.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
So that you could, but because you couldn't when I was in school, could you? Did they change that for you guys, Jared?
You could. You had to get. You'd have to get it like approved, and you'd have to pick one sport as your primary or whatever. But yes, you could.
Did you? So did you ever think about it, or Ted? Did you? Because I definitely the one I would say I probably would have played baseball and ran track. I would have had baseball as my primary. And then probably ran track, but you couldn't do that when I was in school.
That's exactly what I did, Matt. I did baseball and track.
Yeah, I wish I would have. Looking back, I loved golf. Played it my freshman and sophomore years. Actually, a good golfer. Cool. Actually contributed to the team. Unlike in track, where I was just basically a water boy, for better or worse. So yeah, that's something that I've always regretted is, I was pressured a little bit, from the football coach, was also the head track coach. So kind of had to pick your battle there, but definitely my senior year, I regret not, doing them both. It's awesome. Play as many sports as you can. I probably would have tried to play baseball too.
Yeah.
I had it all over again.
Yeah. All right. Well, pretty good little prep spotlight there. Of course, brought to you by our friends at Capital Sports FieldHouse, and we're going to get in
one more thing. I was going to ask. I know I don't want to cut off your ad. You might have to redo that. But
I have no ad. We'll play it in the program.
Doesn't Corona host like a holiday basketball invite or something like that?
They used to. Now it's a scrimmage. Used to be the Battle of Midway. Yeah, I think was the name. But I think it's just a scrimmage now.
Gotcha.
I think they do play, though, like Wednesday night. I think they play Detroit Collegiate Prep, I think, a home game this Wednesday. So Rocky does like to mix it up with some of those Detroit schools down there, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. No, it's good to get that exposure. One more thing. I'm gonna keep extending this segment. Keep thinking of things. This has nothing to do with current athletes. So, but did you guys? One of my favorite things during Christmas break in high school, most of the time you stuck around. You didn't necessarily travel, maybe like day trips to grandparents' houses or something like that. But your dad, Jared, would always open up the gym so we could have open gym during Christmas break. And it was some of the funnest times in like high school sports because everyone's just home off for the holidays. Usually it was snowy or gross out. You'd roll up to the gym and you would just play ball for like 3-4 hours, hang out, with your friends and stuff. We would turn on music, and we would be able to listen to music in the gym. Those are just some memories. Like I was just thinking about that when we were talking about playing or whatever. Like, did you guys do that? Was that really a thing? Or?
That tradition got axed
Really?
when I was in high school in lieu of a Sunday night practice, which was in essence hell on earth. So no, we never quite had those memories. Those are gone.
Yeah, our memories away from the official practices, we had Saturday rec ball in the gym. And, it was basically you had your 5-on-5, and if you won, you kept playing, and that's how we did it. Those were some legendary games back in my time because, you had all kinds of characters from Corona playing. They may not have been basketball players, but they were Saturday morning warriors, and it was legendary. We had a blast with that. We'll have to talk more about that at another time, but that was a good time back in the day.
That's what was cool too, because during the holiday break, they would open it up to alumni, or if you're back in town, come on back. So we'd have some of those dudes that were washed up or whatever, like me rolling up there now or something, playing against 17-year-old high schoolers. But no, it was fun. I would, if I was part of the reason I was asking, I was gonna be like, if it was open next week,
you'd show up.
I would think about bringing my basketball shoes and going up there and seeing if I could hang with these kids. Probably couldn't, but
bring them in case. You never know. All right. Well, we'll move on. We'll talk a little bit of football, both American style and international football, right after this. All right, guys. Before we get into some things locally here, I know I was tuned into the World Cup. It couldn't have worked any better on Sunday. I mean, 10 a.m. start, a great game, and I tweeted. I'm a casual fan, but that was some high drama with France and Argentina, two of the best players in the world. One of them kind of winding down his career, and Messi, and the French kid, man, he is a stud. And like I said, I don't know that much about soccer, but he scored all three of their goals.
We haven't talked about the World Cup. It is an awesome event. I know it's coming to the United States in 4 years. I've always loved it. I mean, you guys maybe won't quite connect with this, but FIFA, the video game, the soccer video game, I swear it's the best sports game that you'll ever play. So much fun. I used to play it all the time with my buddies when I was a kid. But what an event. I mean, Qatar seemed like kind of went off without really a serious hitch. I mean, there's a lot of question marks surrounding that, obviously, and who knows what happened behind the scenes. But it seems like it went fairly well. Nothing too terrible happened, obviously. But what an event! It's mind blowing. The soccer fans, they are as loyal, and they are as diehard as they come. They literally live and die on those teams and those games. They're crying if they're losing. They're crying if they're winning. It's unreal to watch. I will say, and I know this is a bit of a hot button issue in soccer, I hate the penalty kicks. How electric would in a moment have been if it's a walk-off goal in overtime? Just play until a goal is scored. It seemed like France was really starting to turn the tide at the end of that game. I mean, getting a lot of really close shots. Apparently the save that the Argentina goaltender had was similar to LeBron's block in the NBA Finals from soccer terms.
It was incredible.
But just, I really hate how it ends. It's just, I know they say, it takes skill, it takes practice, penalty kicks, but it just seems goofy to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to hockey, like when they end up going to a shootout or something.
Right.
Because these games could go forever. You never know. I mean, you've seen games end up 0-0 after all the extra time and all that kind of stuff. So you never know how long the game would go. I am also a casual fan. I think the three of us are on board with that, but I very thoroughly enjoy the World Cup because, it's the biggest stage. It's all the best players and teams in the world. So, it's the best soccer that you're going to watch. And I'm always just amazed, basically everything Jared just said, at the passion of the fans. Everyone knows about it. You hear about it, how soccer is the biggest sport in the world outside of America. So when you watch the World Cup, you see why or how. And it also makes me realize, even though our team was pretty good this year and there's some potential there, I don't know if we're ever going to be on that level, because I don't know if soccer is ever going to be taken that seriously here in the States. It's going to take like that Christian Pulisic, I think is how you say his last name. Basically is like the LeBron James of our soccer program right now. He's like, and he is a good player. From all my friends who follow it very closely, I've asked him, like, is this dude, he's our best player, but is he actually really that good? And they're like, no, he is. He plays internationally. He's really good.
Right.
But that's like the only one we got. Whereas these other teams, their whole roster is full of these guys. So it's like, I know I'm going off a little bit, but like it makes me realize, like, even though we do have a pretty good team, I don't know if we're ever going to have a team that can compete with an Argentina or some of these other teams, because all of our best athletes, and I know this is also a discussion that people have around soccer, they play other sports for the most part, so while, maybe it'll just take that one amazing year where everything clicks and we've got 2 or 3 great players and a really good goalie or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Everyone was celebrating this team this year. I don't know. I guess it's because they're young. It seems like this is the same sort of level we get to every year in the World Cup. I mean, can we get one superstar? I mean, is that too much? This Pulisic guy, I had never heard of him until, and I don't think any of us had until the World Cup came around, but we knew who Mbappe was. We knew who Lionel Messi was. Mm-hmm. Lionel Messi, I'll just give this shout out, man. Short king, legend, my height, but maybe the best athlete in the world. So just felt good to see that kind of taking place. It's cool. It's good to know there's a sport out there where it doesn't matter your height, doesn't matter your size. It's just your heart, man. So Lionel Messi, shout out for that he didn't have the height, but he had the ability. So made me proud.
I loved his penalty kick too, where he just nonchalantly kicked a low line drive right into the net. It was sweet.
So he does. That's where the skill and strategy, like you were talking about, Jared, comes in. You don't just run up there and bang the ball as hard as you can. Like I've heard him talk about, he waits for the goalie to commit and then just kicks it the other way or whatever. And I became pretty good friends with a couple guys up in Bristol who are from Argentina that work at ESPN. And I remember talking to them up there during the last couple World Cups. And, again, as a casual fan, I'd be like, oh, you're looking forward to the World Cup? And they would just be like blown away. Like, I've been thinking about this for 4 years and, asking them about like Lionel Messi. And they're like, this guy you don't understand. We think Michael Jordan is a big deal in this country. Mm-hmm. Messi, Ronaldo, some of these other guys from these countries are Michael Jordan times 100. Messi now, I can't even imagine the kind of legendary status that he's going to have in Argentina. He will be able to do anything he wants in that country. I saw videos, I'm sure you guys maybe did on Twitter, of Buenos Aires, and people were like taking videos of the city and stuff. I bet it hasn't stopped. The celebration has not stopped still. And this is what, 2 days later, a day or two later. And it's just, it goes into my point of, because here, okay, we had a team make it past, make it into the second round basically of the World Cup, lose, and we're probably not going to think about soccer for another 4 years in this country, whereas overseas it's year round. They think about it all year, kind of like we do with the NFL or college football. So it's a cool event though. Really cool event.
Has it figured out with the relegation, with all these different leagues, international sport, the World Cup. I mean, there's no other sport that could replicate that.
Yeah, it's the world sport for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about Argentina, and there was a lot of videos out there that you mentioned, and I found the cool one. I retweeted it. I think it was a drone shot looking down, and we envisioned Super Bowl parties afterwards, but I had never seen anything like this. There must have been millions. I mean, I don't know, 2 million people out there in the streets celebrating.
Insane.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, Jared, you talked about the little fellas, and they're able to play soccer. How about Brady Rose and the Ferris State Bulldogs and Tony Anise? I mean, he's not a giant either, but he's a giant coach. And what a job by the Bulldogs going down to Texas and just kicking butt.
Yeah, I was talking to, before you get in, Jared, we had a couple friends over on Saturday. Like, they came over. We were hanging out, decorating cookies, and that kind of Christmas hangout or whatever. But the guy that came, like our friend's husband, we're friends with him now too. We were sitting there, we were watching football, and I told him, I was like, we got to watch this game, Ferris State. He's from Alabama, so he's like, he didn't know who Ferris State was, and I was like, oh, it's a D2 school, the head coach went to our high school, blah blah blah. I gave him the whole spiel, and And so we were just talking about how good they are, how they showed that graphic at the beginning of the game. 4 programs have won. They put the 4 programs that have won 11 games in however many seasons. And Ferris State is up there with Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, I believe, are the 4, and then Ferris State. So we were talking about that, and he was like, how does he build, a powerhouse D2 program? And at least to me, I'm not speaking for Coach Anise, I'm not doing that, but I was like, I think he's got a bunch of guys like this Brady Rose. As we were talking about it, he was catching like ball. I was like, he's got these dudes who maybe are too small even for the MAC, or they're just on the edge of being a MAC player, or maybe going to like an Illinois or something. But they're great football players. They're fantastic football players. And you hear Coach Anise talk about it. He wants guys with big hearts. They don't have to be 6'5" and run a 4.2 40 or stuff like that. And you watch Brady Rose. I mean, how many state titles did he win? In Michigan, he won 2 or 3 state titles. Now he's won a couple national titles. I mean, when you talk about a football player, he honestly might get a look in the NFL. He might get a look. It's super long shot, but
maybe a return guy. Maybe
I'll be honest. I was
man like that. It's just impressive watching Ferris State.
Yeah,
play.
I honestly, that was my first time watching him, was this weekend.
Me too.
He does not have burners. That's for darn sure. He's a good blocker on the perimeter, but just a smart football player. Yeah, he's won 2. He made it to the Ford Field his sophomore year, won in his junior year, won in his senior year, won the national title at Ferris his freshman year, won the national title at Ferris his sophomore year. I mean, he's on one hell of a tear, man. We dream of even stepping on Ford Field here where we're from. Right. He's like, just it's another day in the backyard playing football, winning these titles. My favorite stat I saw this weekend, I had 2 favorite ones. One, Ferris's record the last 8 seasons, 110. So for every 10 games they win, they lose 1 football game.
It's insane.
Unreal.
How is that even possible? That's mind blowing to think about. And then another one, I think, of Ferris's roster, I think 105 of the players are from Michigan.
Right.
Just recruiting right in your backyard. Like, just scooping up. I mean, think of how many freaking football teams there are in Michigan. I don't even know how it's possible that he's fostered a national title team from the remaining players. I mean, we have 3 MAC schools, we have 2 Big Ten schools, we have all these different D2 schools. Another big one in GVSU, probably the second best team in the nation behind Ferris this year. Just where's he finding all this talent? I mean, Michigan. Pat ourselves on the back. We got some talent in this state.
Well, we do. And I think the other thing that, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Tony gets some good quality individuals, but he takes a few risks with borderline, kids maybe that haven't been getting the right direction at home, and he'll bring them in and he gives them kind of that father figure, and he preaches it's all about love, and he gets some of these youngsters turned around and buying into the program, and it just helps them long term in their life mission. I mean, that says a lot for Tony, and we've talked about him many times. It's nothing but love and what he's done up there, and we don't need to get into the whole Division I conversation because he has built a dynasty there at Ferris. Hell, I think at this point, let's get the Bulldogs just move up to Division I and see if he can compete in the MAC. What the hell?
Yeah, I remember talks of that when I was at Grand Valley. That was when they were basically what Ferris is right now. And people were talking about Grand Valley should be playing in D1 in the MAC. And I remember even talking to some of the people who played on the team, and they were like apprehensive of that. I don't disagree with you, and I know what you're saying. But
I was kind of sarcastic.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean,
I'd be curious how it would actually work out, though.
Right,
I guess what I mean.
The Grand Valley thing is, I feel like I just saw a report of that like last year. Nothing came of it. Whatever guy with the blue check mark tweeted that out, and I fell for it. He should be arrested. But yeah, no, it's just truly crazy. It's awesome that we have the Corona tied to him.
Yeah.
Obviously it makes all us Corona alums proud. And he's the most famous Corona alum we've ever had. It's kind of funny compared to some of these other schools who have like Rochester Adams, who has Madonna. But we'll take him. In the football world, he's a coach's coach, and we know how good of a coach he is. So hands off to Ferris.
You brought that up before, and that's 100% correct. I mean, you even keeping it a little local here, Owosso. Who's their number 1? It's Brad Van Pelt, no doubt about it. But if you go to Corona alum, it's Tony Anise. It's got to be.
I'd be curious to ask some people, because I knew I played football, so I knew Nick Anise Field. Oh, Tony Anise, he was dominating high school football at the time I was, kind of coming through or whatever. I'd be curious if that many kids really know who he is. If they don't follow football, or if they don't follow D2 football now, Ferris back-to-back national titles. You know, they're definitely on the map or whatever. But
Oh yeah,
I'd be curious how many kids actually know who he is. But it is impressive what they're doing, and I don't know, you can't say anything more than what we've already said about his coaching resume. And he's got to be to the point now, basically where Nick Saban is, or you know, maybe it's starting to tail off a little bit, but or was with the transfer portal or whatever. Tony Anise probably almost doesn't have to recruit. You know, like you know what I mean? Like to an extent. Like if he calls a kid who maybe doesn't have offers to Michigan State or to Eastern Michigan or you know, whatever. If Tony Anise calls you and says, I want you to come to Ferris, you're probably going to say, yeah, let's go. Because at this point, Jared, you just laid it out, 110 in their last however many seasons. If you go to Ferris and you play good 2, 3, 4 years, you're probably going to end up with a ring. It's the same with like when you go to Alabama,
yeah.
if you or Georgia, you know, some of these other schools. You go to these schools and you stay for 3, 4 years, you're going to get a ring. You're going to compete for a national title. So that's the point that Anise has that program right now.
Well, it's funny, you know, I had a guy Cooper, who I played with high school. I went on a recruiting visit with him to Grand Valley. You know, if you want to win football games, you go to Ferris. If you want to, you know, look cool wearing the all black Adidas jerseys and, you know, going to school in Grand Rapids and doing that whole thing, you go to Grand Valley. So it's just simple as that in my book. And I had classes with a lot of those kids that were on that football team. You know, maybe it's a gross exaggeration and stereotype, but that was my vibe. You know, I've been close with both those programs, and that's my takeaway.
No, it was. And like I said, I was at Grand Valley from 03 to 08. So right, you know, at the end or during their peak. And when it started to tail off a little bit, because they won 2 national titles when I was there.
Right.
So, you know, pretty good. But it was that way. They maybe rightfully so, but super arrogant. If you played football at Grand Valley, you thought you were in the NFL, basically walking around that campus in Allendale. And you know, I think it still is that way, even though Ferris is clearly the dominant program, but Grand Valley is still obviously very good. It's basically Ferris and Grand Valley, you know,
Grand Valley beat them this year. The only loss.
Yeah. And then,
right.
Yeah, they were 2 best teams. You know, I've always compared it to this. It's kind of, and also we can say it's Michigan fans. We knew, we always kind of believed it. No matter how many times Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State beat Michigan, you always felt like you were superior to them. And I feel like that's the same way with Grand Valley. And we saw that with Harbaugh. Until you go back to your roots and find out, you know, your real identity, it's probably going to keep happening. So,
yeah. Well, anyway, congratulations to Tony and the Bulldogs. And by the way, he will be making an appearance on the podcast here in the next week or so, guys. I did reach out to him. So we'll get more questions of the coach, maybe from some other exotic location, like he checked in last year from Florida. Nice and mellow.
Yeah, he was definitely nice and mellow. It's awesome. I'll be curious to see if he wins when how many awards he stacks up.
Yeah.
You know, for this season that they just had. And speaking of awards, I saw right before we started recording, right now the odds anyway for Coach of the Year in the NFL, Dan Campbell's number 2, only behind Nick Sirianni, the Eagles coach, who's probably going to win it. But you know, for Dan Campbell to be right there to win Coach of the Year when they started off 1-6, and we were damn near writing the dude off, saying,
I know,
you got one more year, man, or else you're gone. And he's about to win Coach of the Year, maybe having these guys fighting back to the playoffs. I don't know. The playoffs may not happen. A lot of scenarios still have to shake out. They still have to win their games. But this might be the most fun I've ever had watching the Lions. And I was a huge, I mean, that's not true, because I absolutely loved Barry Sanders. He's my favorite athlete of all time. Ted, you remember the Barry Sanders days.
Oh, yeah.
Loved Matthew Stafford and Megatron. Those teams were fun to watch. This team, though, the way they play, the style they play with Campbell, and how they clearly love each other with that video of after Wright scores, like, we believe in you, like all this stuff. It's like this Lions team, man, I don't know how anyone can not like them. Fun team to watch.
What an ugly game it was. I mean, it was fun for about 2 minutes. That's about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that play. I mean, Brock Wright and Ben Johnson. I mean, we were texting about it, you know, off the pod, and I'll be honest, as soon as Jared Goff dropped back to pass and, you know, it was the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, like, oh, no one's open. You were thinking to yourself, what the F are they doing?
Right.
But perfectly dialed up. I mean, it's fun watching that replay where you see Brock Wright, basically sitting one Mississippi, two Mississippi, blocking the defensive end. As soon as that linebacker basically releases across the field, he just crosses right with them and just wide open, perfectly dialed up, ends up going 51 yards to the house. I mean, where does that play rank? Let's say that this leads to a playoff berth down the road. I mean, where does that play rank in the great plays of Lions history? I mean, I can't think of one higher in my head, in my lifetime. Maybe the Calvin Johnson catch, if that would have been called a catch, opening day against Chicago Bears way back when. But I think it's the biggest play in Lions history in my lifetime.
Probably. I mean, Stafford made the playoffs a couple times, so maybe there might be a couple plays there we're kind of forgetting. I remember one where he drove down and dove over the
fake spike.
The QB sneak fake spike. So he's probably got a couple. But I'm definitely there with you. If they end up making the playoffs, they were about to lose that game to the Jets. I mean, that's the thing. They needed that. It was 4th and inches, and they're about to lose to Zach Wilson. So they needed that play, dialed it up, and they scored. So,
in that text string we had, you guys, you just have a feeling that they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're playing with real confidence. And look what it does to you. That they feel like they can win. They feel like they can come back if they're behind. And you got to start with Campbell with that. Obviously, Ben Johnson, I mean, they got to keep that guy on board, man. He has really dialed up some plays this year. And that 4th down call was just amazing. I loved it. So, Jared's right. It was kind of an ugly game, but we'll take it. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, Matt. All right. I just want to get it on
where this is going.
You do. I just want to put it right on the table right now. And I think Jared and I made our feelings known last week, but I want you on the record, you saying we go for another quarterback or we stay with Goff?
No, I'm
right now. I mean, not looking ahead, just right now for the future. Is he going to be our quarterback, or would you rather see them go elsewhere?
I think he's okay for now, and for next season, I don't want him to draft a quarterback this upcoming NFL draft just because they still have so many other holes. And with 2 draft picks in the first round, the Rams and then their own draft pick, they could really solidify defensive line, linebacker, cornerbacks, whatever. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about a quarterback because Jared Goff, the same words I always use, he's serviceable. He's fine. He has moments where it's like, this is a really good quarterback. That's why he started in a Super Bowl for the Rams. But I also stick to, he's just a guy. He's fine. He's solid. He actually was not very good yesterday against the Jets. And he just misses throws all the time to the point where I'm like, we're not thinking that the Lions are at the Chiefs level where they need someone performing like Patrick Mahomes. So, that's why I'm not saying get Goff out of here. He's trash. Trade him right now. No, he's good. But if they're going to get to the next level, I'm not sure if he's the guy, at least in my opinion, especially when he's making $32 million a year. I don't know if he's worth that.
Yeah.
And when you're drafting dudes like Jameson Williams, who can just burn down the field and he can't even hit him on a 40-yard pass. I mean, it's like, I don't know. What are we trying to do? So, no, I'm not saying ship the guy out, but I'm also like, if he's not going to take a pay cut and they're having to pay him 35 million, the going rate for a star quarterback, in my opinion, he's not worth that. I mean, he's better than, the days of Mike McMahon, Stoney Case, Jeff Driscoll, who started a couple games a few years ago. Yes, of course, Jared Goff is better than those days. But there's a reason that Sean McVay was so quick to trade him for Matthew Stafford and ship a bunch of draft picks off, because he knew he wasn't ever going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. He knew if I could get my hands on Matthew Stafford, I can get him to the Super Bowl and we can win. And they did. So, I'm not one of those that's like, get this dude out of town. I don't want him, but I'm also not like, man, this guy's the next John Elway. Build a statue.
Yeah, you're not sold on him being the Lions franchise quarterback.
He did not have a great day this week, but I'm not gonna fault. I mean, you win a game in the NFL, I'm not gonna get mad at you. Yeah, I don't care. Yep. I mean, a quarterback, because you can lose the game believe me, I've lost a lot of games in my day as a quarterback. You can lose a game pretty easily.
No turnovers in 6 straight games, 0 turnovers.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Exactly. He didn't lose it. And when the game was on the line, he got a couple first downs before that Brock Wright big time play.
And he didn't clunk that pass.
He didn't clunk that pass. And he didn't do anything dumb. He didn't do a Zach Wilson. Think about it. Ended up winning by what? 3 points. If Zach Wilson doesn't throw that interception in the second half that leads to our field goal, then they probably end up winning. So that was the difference in the game. Jared Goff didn't turn it over. Zach Wilson did. I mean, he finished 23 of 38, 252. Definitely did not look great. Missed that big throw to Jameson Williams, as we saw. But I'm not going to sit here and fault the guy. If he's winning, I will be sitting here singing his praises. Believe me, if he has a backbreaking interception against the Bears or the Packers in that potential last game of the season, then I'll be the first one to come at him. But if you're winning ball games, I'm always going to praise you.
Who would
especially
you categorize
as the Lions quarterback?
Yeah. Who would you categorize him with? Is he kind of a Ryan Tannehill type? I mean,
I think so.
Ryan Tannehill is actually an athlete. Ryan Tannehill was recruited as a linebacker in college.
You think he's a better quarterback? You think Tannehill's a better quarterback?
He's accurate. He's accurate. I would not say. I mean, Tannehill's won playoff games in his day. I don't know. That's an interesting comparison. I'm not sure where Tannehill.
I didn't know if you were meaning like literally who are you comparing him to, like his style. I thought you meant
not style. Where he would rank as a leader of the team. There's no doubt he's the Titans quarterback, right?
Yeah, I'm saying like a Dak Prescott, like a Ryan Tannehill. Like he's not Patrick Mahomes. No, he's not Josh Allen, but he's also not Zach Wilson. He's also not, some of these other dudes. That's at least to me.
Do you guys believe in karma?
He's a word. Depending on how you view Kirk Cousins, he's not as good as Kirk Cousins. Maybe he's won a few more games and obviously made it to the Super Bowl. But I would say his comp would be maybe a little step below Kirk Cousins, but very similar play style.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even put him below. Maybe you look at the overall stats, maybe, but that's pretty similar comparison, I think. And look at it realistically. Yeah, you could draft a guy and you could screw up all the karma you got, right?
Right.
And it might not pan out where what you got with Jared Goff. You're going to have some of these days where he doesn't really throw great passes, but overall, I still think he's a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL, and that they don't come along every year. So.
Right.
They got other spots to fill. I agree with that part.
The Jets, I was impressed with their defense. I mean, Sauce Gardner
really good.
Would have loved to have somehow ended up with that guy. I mean, the Detroit native. What a cool story that is. Him going to Cincinnati, kind of out of nowhere, becoming this star player. Never had a touchdown completed on him in college. I love watching him play. I think the superstar of this game, it has to be, and maybe we buried the lead a little bit with this, but Khalif Raymond. He ended up with 5 receptions of 53 yards. I mean, the punt return, we saw the offense. Chances are they probably were going to end up getting a field goal out of that drive if he doesn't house that punt return.
Yeah.
The player of the game. I remember we were all kind of maybe rooting for Khalil Pimpleton to make the team over him in training camp and during Hard Knocks, but he's done a great job filling in as like maybe the wide receiver 4 slot, and biggest play of the game. They won them the game, punt return, and the defense played their asses off throughout the entire game as well.
They did.
I just love seeing. I mean, we've talked about Ben Johnson a lot, their offensive coordinator, how creative he is, and you can see how Jared Goff, who and this isn't to go back to backing on Jared Goff, you can see how when a good quarterback, or at least a quality quarterback, when they have a good offensive coordinator, what they can do. You can tell Jared Goff is 100% in on Ben Johnson's play calling and everything like that. They're just in sync. Whereas Matthew Stafford was having to deal with like Jim Bob Cooter and Matt Patricia and some of these other dudes. And it's just like, you could tell it was just Stafford going out there slinging it around, just doing his thing. And part of what I like is talking about Khalif Raymond. They bring him in for like end arounds, or they give him like bubble screens, or they even handed the ball off to Amon-Ra St. Brown a couple times in the backfield. I just like seeing the way that they use their athletes. I think they're still easing Jameson Williams back in. I hope that they figure out a way to start using him a little more. But I like because it seemed like I remember times when we had Megatron, and it would be like sometimes there'd be those games where it was getting into the third quarter, and it was like, oh, yeah, what's he done? Oh, he only has 1 catch. And it'd be like, you have this dude in Kelvin Johnson. How are you not like just figuring out a way to get him the ball? And it seems like Ben Johnson figures out ways to get St. Brown the ball. Raymond, he gives, Swift, when he's healthy, he gets him out on space so he can, make some moves and stuff like that. So I love seeing this offense right now. And the one thing, Dan Campbell, I don't know what you guys think, that he decided to kick that field goal towards the end of the game when they were up 3, and it almost came back to bite him because it was another one of those situations like in the Vikings game earlier in the year.
It was almost the identical situation.
It was almost the exact same
situation. And he said he'd never do that again.
Right.
And our kicker is terrible. It's definitely going to come back and on us.
Yeah.
Magically.
He's been okay. He's been okay indoors. Like I ended up looking it up. What was his season high this year? He made a 53-yarder, but it was indoors. He made another 51 or 52 in Detroit. So again, indoors. But I mean, when you're in New York and it's 30 degrees or whatever, wind is swirling, 54-yard field goal, man, I don't care if, your punter isn't that great or whatever. You got to take the chance and try and pin him deep. With Zach Wilson as a quarterback, it's like pin that dude deep.
And I feel like it's important to point this out. So think about how that game ended. New York Jets marching down the field. They have the big completion to Garrett Wilson. 55 seconds, I think, when he catches it. They don't call timeout. I think their next snap comes at like 32 seconds, 23 seconds off the clock.
Stupid.
And we rag on Dan Campbell, every time he messes up. Here's the thing. It's very hard to manage the clock well, is what we've learned in the NFL. I know it's easy for us on our couch with the announcers and, this 360 view. They can't quite figure it out. And they're some of the smartest, coaching minds that there is. So I just feel like it's a good time to point that out to Lions fans, that it's not just Dan Campbell that struggles with the clock. And I mean, we saw a lot of screw ups. I mean, let's just talk about this for a quick second, maybe before we get back into the Lions and maybe their actual playoff chances in the remaining schedule. Did you guys happen to see the New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders? How that game did? God. I mean, that's Bill Belichick. That's a Bill Belichick coach team. I have never seen a play so idiotic. And I watched a lot of youth football games in my day. I used to broadcast those games, 8 games in a day from the press box for free pizza, man. I've seen a lot of dumb plays in my lifetime. I have never in any level of football seen a play that dumb.
Yeah.
Think about it. If that happened in a youth football game, you would never live it down. You would think it was the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. That happened in an NFL football game. Everything about that play was so hilarious. And if you didn't see it, if you live under a rock, but I'll explain it real quick.
Yeah.
Tied ball game, 3 seconds left, 24-24. Just run out the clock, go to overtime. They hand it off to Ramondre Stevenson, who, runs for maybe 15 yards before he laterals it. 0's on the clock. Jacoby, the wide receiver, just literally throws it right to Chandler Jones, Las Vegas Raiders. Like Mac Jones maybe within 10 yards of him. Chandler Jones catches it, stiff arms Mac Jones right into the turf, which is maybe the funniest thing of the entire play, and just runs untouched to the end zone. I watched that play probably 40 times yesterday. I could not stop watching it. I've never seen anything like it, man.
It was so crazy. One of our good followers out there, Miggy Incognito, pointed out the freeze frame of basically right when that pass was happening across the field. Matt Patricia in the background looked like he was clapping. I don't know if he was cheering. I don't know if he was saying like "get down." Who knows what he was actually saying. That just made it a lot more funny too, seeing Patricia. As Lions fans, seeing Patricia over there melting down or whatever, but. That's just maybe along the lines of what you were saying, Jared. In the moment, coaches sometimes flub when it comes to clock management. Maybe, the Patriots players in that moment were trying to make too many plays, but that was had to be one of the most idiotic things in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, you can't blame the coach for that one.
No.
Yeah, and Patricia basically said it was not the play call. Basically, here's my hypothesis of how that happened. Stevenson lateral it back, probably didn't realize that there was that many guys close to him, thought, hey, he could maybe score on this. I think once that initial lateral happened, I think Jacoby, think if you're mid-play, all of a sudden they get lateral to that, you think, oh, wait, are we losing or something right now? Do I need to lateral this?
Right.
But what I didn't understand is just what an idiotic, he threw it right to Jones. If you throw it, somewhat close to Mac Jones and it gets batted around, somebody probably ends up tackling him. But it was just such a perfect, serve it on a platter right to him just for him to take off toward the end zone. I just couldn't get over it.
It was a pretty wild weekend with that play. The Colts were up 33-0 over the Vikings, and the Vikings came back and beat them. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, I hate to be a Colt fan today. And then I was watching pretty intently the Giants and Commanders game last night. I was actually pulling. I mean, for the Lions, it would have been better if they tied again, I think. And they had a chance at the end. Washington was driving. There was absolute terrible calls by the referees. One where the offensive end was looking to the referee, say, hey, am I on the line? He said, yeah. And they call a penalty there. Then just an absolutely, completely blatant pass interference in the end zone goes uncalled. I mean, Miggy Incognito will be all over this too. He's always saying the fix is in the NFL. And some of the games yesterday makes me wonder on what these referees are looking at and why don't they change it somehow? I know they did try, what was it, 3 years ago, to make pass interference a reviewable play, and then I don't think they really bought into it at all. They just put it out there.
I don't fault the line of scrimmage play was bizarre because we all see the zoom in. I don't know what the ref he definitely didn't give him a thumbs up like people are saying. He said something, and I don't think the wide receiver moved up enough before the ball was eventually snapped. But as for the pass interference, it was such a bang play. I mean, even Curtis Samuel got up and he wasn't like throwing a temper tantrum. I don't even think he kind of realized that he was being held. So I don't fault that one. But the line of scrimmage, sometimes if I'm a referee, just swallow your whistle, man. That's such a pointless like flag just to throw a flag because it's like technically not a part of the rules. Read the situation. Just let it go.
And it's one of those that makes me think about like how often could you make that call the rest of the game? Is it literally every other play the rest of the game? People are lined up perfectly on the line of scrimmage in the perfect formation, whatever. Like, you probably could have made that call 4 or 5 other times throughout the game. So why are you deciding to make that call right now? Kind of like holding, sometimes I'm like, you see dudes getting held almost every play in the NFL, but then they decide to throw it, certain times. So I don't know. Being an official, man, it would be a hard job.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist very often, but I'm starting to question if you're gonna put a fix in on a game, man, an NFL referee would be the guy to do it with, wouldn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
Right on the coming down crunch time. I mean, you saw the guy. He was reaching right for his flag as soon as that play started, man. Yeah, it does make you wonder, and all of a sudden, it's a New York team that wins, I don't know.
It definitely is a little bit fishy. So basically, from what I've read, the Lions have 42% chance to make the playoffs as of now, according to 538. If they went out, 98% is the number. Where do you realistically, these next 3 games, at Carolina, home against the Bears, and then obviously at Green Bay? I got a bad feeling about this Bears game. I don't think we're going to make it to this Green Bay game. Justin Fields, one-man video game. I mean, we know how tight it was last time we played them. Miracle we won that game. I just have a bad feeling about Fields. Just seems like it could be like a coming out memorable Justin Fields type moment type game that just takes the air out of Ford Field.
My only thing is at least it's at home because we know, not getting back to Jared Goff, but he's been way better at home than he has been on the road. That helps. Yep. The kicker, like you brought up, Jared, way better at home than on the road, indoors basically. And that Ford Field crowd has been amazing this whole season. So, and being the last home game for potential playoff spot, they're going to be up for that game. I almost wonder about this game in Carolina. I mean, because I said, it's going to be cold. Carolina, they're just, they're out of it. They're just a mess. Like, the coaching situation is a mess. The quarterback situation is a mess, but they're still playing hard. I almost wonder if they're going to look past the Panthers ahead to the Bears and Packers, So
they can't.
It seems like Campbell won't let them do that. I don't know if you can say that, won't let them do that, but Campbell seems to have a good perspective, within that locker room. So game by game, just one game at a time.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they won't look past anybody at this point. And yeah, you can say Campbell won't let them, but I think what I've seen on this team, the players won't let it happen. They know what the past history has been, and they know what they got right in front of them, and they're going to come out and play hard. It does worry me a little bit about Fields, but it's almost like, a basketball analogy. We'll let so-and-so get 50 points. We'll shut everybody else down. Fields is going to get his rushing yardage, but maybe they can shut down his passing. That's what we can hope for.
Yep.
Yeah. How lucky are we though, man? I mean, once in our life that I actually feel like we're playing some meaningful football.
I wish I could say once in my life.
We've harped on it a bunch. It's just, there's something a lot more fun about this group of guys than any of those Stafford teams ever were. So just feels like it means more.
At least to me, even as I've said, a very big Matthew Stafford fan, it felt like he was the only thing. And, when Megatron was there, obviously him too. But now thinking back, this team, you use the word, we're going to start using the word every week. This team is so much more rootable than those other teams because of all the other characters, everything we've already talked about, everything that goes into this team. A lot more to cheer on.
We always knew it was fool's gold, right? It was always the late comebacks, no running game, defense horrible. At least this team has the makings of a a playoff team that could win a game. It
Right.
seems it's not just Matthew Stafford, going off or getting lucky is what it felt like a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Amen, boys. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. No doubt about it. Hashtag since 57. Let's go Lions.
Hopefully we can put that hashtag to bed soon.
That's right. Next up, we're going to have back by request from episode 51, our little special segment on holiday music. So we hope you enjoy this right after this. All right, this has been the 3 Point Podcast presented by Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry, over 15 locations throughout the state. Check out the new Skymint Reserve. If you're over 21, go to skymint.com. Sign up for their great rewards program, and at the Corona store, 3.20. That's the coupon code for 20% off Skymint products and new customers. Also, we're brought to you by Memorial Healthcare, home of the Now Community Wellness Center. Join the 21-day health challenge. Just $1 initiation fee and $2 a day. Enroll now through January 15th. Take advantage of this offer. All kinds of great stuff, including $2 per child babysitting for 2 hours. Also, the challenge, join the Wellness Center as a member for 75% off the sign-up fee. Go to memorialhealthcare.org/wellness-center and check them out. They've been providing health care for you since 1921. Make sure you also let all our great partners know you listen in and enjoy the program. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports FieldHouse, Pro Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Before we officially sign off, guys, I think all three of us want to send a special shout out to our partners, man. They anytime any of our listeners or any in their businesses, tell them you listen to the podcast, and we appreciate their sponsorship, and I'm sure they'd like to hear that their message is getting out there to everybody.
Definitely. I mean, we've definitely talked about Rivals a lot, and I know they're going through some management changes and stuff like that, but we've always been big fans of them. They always have great shows, concerts, big nights, during big football, basketball games, stuff like that. AZEE Printing, they hooked us up with a bunch of swag. I was telling you guys before we started recording that, I'm getting some things made for when I'm back in town next week to pick up when I'm back in town. They do a good job with their screen printing and embroidery. Ted, you've gotten hooked up with a ton of stuff,
yeah.
It seems like, from them.
Some great stuff.
And all of our other partners, everything they do. We definitely appreciate the support, helping us grow, helping us get the word out. And I think we all feel good getting the word out about them, all their businesses and stuff too.
100%. Also, make sure you follow us at social media at 3 Point Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and the Z92.5 Game of the Week. Not until next year, January 6th, St. John's at Mason. Until next week, so long, everybody. Peace and love. Be kind. Thanks for listening, and have a great Christmas, and we'll talk to you on the backside.